Hello everyone, welcome back to our JPACT session 6th May. So we are doing our mock interviews. So today team, primarily one, I want to make sure that you all start doing some coding challenges also on the side, small ones. I will not start with big ones, but you need to get accustomed. And also team, most importantly, from tomorrow, only for JPACT members, because there are other members who wanted to give it a try as part of JPACT 14. So if you're not a JPACT member, your registration will get cancelled on this. We have a lot of members. We want to make sure that we focus on doing one job. I also want you to share your screen and explain some of the answers as I ask. So you can draw a diagram or write notes and so on to talk about your answer. So please start interacting. Eventually, I also want, what did I forget? Yes, resume project in the mock interview. So primarily, if you send me even a single project, it's fine. So typically, how do you see a project in, so let us say you're working for your client, or the project is in your Excel lab. Okay, then you have certain roles. Then what are the different tools that you used in this, and you'll talk about your daily activities. So I want you to take up any of these projects from your resume and start giving me answers to that. Am I being clear to everyone what I'm saying? I want you to either share the entire resume, you can hide your details, hide or change details. You don't need all the details, but at least the project I will need. Once I have the details of a project, based on the project, I want to ask questions. So ask questions based on the project, and that is most importantly. What is it that you did in that project? How come you know the skill? How come you learned the skill? You can always say, I do not know the skill. I've learned it through a training activity. But here is how I can explain the concept by sharing your screen and so on. And team, you're observing what is happening to the market. So opportunities may start with work from home and convert into on-site full-time. So I want you to start doing shared faces and do more video calls to be prepared, because you may get an interview call, and the interview call will say very simple that, hey, can we have a video call? And as you get into projects, you want to be able to face that. So I think you should be comfortable sharing your face and talking about these. What we've been doing so far was, given a question, what is a typical answer? Most of it, and some of it very smartly, our team members could put it as how we did it in a project in a very nice fashion, so that it's explainable to all. Now, I think it's time that we get more specific into it. So any of the answers also can be specific, not just as a sentence, but as a holistic. So again, the fact that, for example, if I scroll up, we've taken some questions. Where are those questions? Let us say here, explain the term increment of increments. So when we're talking about this, we took and we corrected the answers. We wrote one answer, but we did not write what are every answer that we're getting. There should be one concrete answer, and I'll talk about that too as we go along. See, for example, when we talk about very simple question like absolute and relative XPath. Let's start with some of these. The only couple of questions that I want to ask today, and then I want you to share your screen, if possible, and explain to me the differences or anything. These are the two areas I want to focus on, team. Basics on element identification and frameworks. Do you know the concepts? And for those JPACT members, there'll be JPACT projects that's going on, 2 currently, and I will add you to it. I want you to be able to actively participate. Yes. So team, once you're ready with your answers, please raise your hand. I would love to hear how we present these. And keep in mind these points also, that can we give answers more project-based, more practical in nature? Come on, team, hands. Anyone? So raise your hand. I can unmute you. I have one hand raised. Let's go. Shalan, yes, please.
Yeah, I have a very limited knowledge on element identifications. So I'm just aware that there are 8 different methods through which we can identify the elements. So one is a name and ID and class name, XPath, CSS,
And these are the different ways we use to identify, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I remember.
Well, sure.
Thank you.
Yes, Jivita, Vijaya.
Yeah, hi Karthik. Yeah, we have different types of methods and have ID, name, class name, and link text and partial link text. And tag name. Yeah, ID will be unique. If we have a ID available, we can go through the ID. Otherwise, we can go through XPath or CSS selector. In XPath, you different types of XPath, absolute XPath and relative XPath. Absolute XPath is when it starts searching from the root node, and we'll create the absolute XPath by using single backslash. And relative XPath, it will start searching anywhere in the DOM. It will create with the double backslash. Yeah.
Okay.
And absolute XPath will start from the HTML root node, I think so. Yeah, I know that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to add? Team, anyone else would like to add to this? Yes, Manasa.
Yeah, hi Karthik, hi everyone. There is a when coming to element identification and using these different methods, I think there is a priority that is usually followed. Like for example, when we use QTP, we usually go with the HTML ID. We use HTML ID for element identification rather than going with others like name, class name, or XPath. And ultimately, if none of them are found, or this probably if the application is not stable enough, we go with the XPath. That is what I remember when working with QTP.
Okay. So QTP is a very nice tool, team. There we have something called as an object repository. Okay. And there are two types of object repositories. There's a local object repository and a shared object repository. So either when I add objects to my repository or I do a record, that time they get added. And the most important things are the object attributes, or what we call them as properties and values. So you can always look at those, investigate what is there, and you can also put some regular expressions as to what it follows. Additionally, there are things like recovery scenarios and so on, which makes it interesting on how to navigate through. So, but element identification perspective, they still use the same methodology.
Okay. So is there any priority, Karthik, or like the ID should be used first, or
ID is a good priority. Or okay. ID is a good priority to start because it's usually unique, and most of the developers try and fill that in. But then what keeps happening is they may not ID with everything, especially when you get tables and data is not really into a specific format and so on. You'll have challenges. Then you have to get specific. But
okay. So is
XPath the ultimate one? About the order in this. For me, it is very simple. Let us say this is the scope of my entire test automation. Okay. Now I'm using ID or name for some, be it QTP or be it Selenium, doesn't matter. And for some, I've written specifically like an XPath, how to identify based on index or this and that, whatever. So everything works, but I know that sometimes there may be a few failures at certain areas. So that's me who's going to have to go manually and look into how to fix it. There are some, so to say, how do we say, self-healing tools in the market, AI-based automation tools, that they're saying, oh, you know what, if this fails, then we will do something. In QTP, there was one thing. It has, if it does not use, it has a second option of choosing the property. You can give more than one detail to it. Okay, if this does not work, try this. That was there in QT. So you could pre-program. But in real time, they will fail because of multiple reasons. You manually have to go there and fix them, whatever those are that are failing. I literally try to put XPath wherever possible, unless there's a clear ID or name. Of course, link text will use it as is. Partial link text, again, we don't have to because we can use contains and so on. Rarely we use tag names or class. Even if we do, I'll put it into XPath. Now, no one has explained yet something. I'm still waiting for some deeper answers, team. For example, difference between XPath and CSS. Both are used to identify.
By using XPath, you can find dynamic elements also. And with the CSS selector is faster than XPath, I think so.
CSS also can be dynamic, right?
Yeah.
It can also, see, in the program, let's talk about Selenium IDE, for example. So these are two different approaches. And typically in Selenium IDE, once you record, then you'll see all the drop-down with it. Instead of CSS, let's look at an XPath or an IDE name, which will give you all those differences.
With XPath, I think we can traverse both forward and backward direction, whereas CSS selector only moves forward.
Team, can we all prepare this answer and come on this, please? Because this has to be more concrete, our knowledge. Sometimes anyone can go deeper into it. Both are different types of it. And just look at CSS. Even in IT Learn, there is a CSS tutorial. I'll try and share this link. Just ping me, please. Identification videos. But from a concept perspective, try and get that idea. Even the same absolute XPath and relative XPath, I'm getting very basic definition. We need to improve these two answers, team, significantly. How do we say it?
Absolute XPath will start from the parent node and child node like that. It will be very clearly tell the address of the element. And yeah, relative XPath directly it will go to the element, whatever we need the things.
Okay. Team, try and rethink of your answer once again. I will try and explain this concept to you. Okay. So let's talk about absolute XPath. What does this do? How can we define it very clearly? So first you understand, then we can define it. So let us say, what are we doing? We're trying to identify something, correct? Now there is A out here, and I need to identify, get to B. All right. So A is basically my start of my HTML, the first line of the code, and B is my element, wherever I want to identify. Are you all with me? Now, there are two ways for me to do this. One way is I can tell A that, hey, listen, go from, I should have drawn this. Let's think of it like a more of a postal service day, how we give directions to someone, all right? So we'll say, okay, you know what, take a right from here or left from here, let's say. Is that left? Yeah. From his perspective, that's left. And then you would see, let us say, for example, a theater, and then you turn right there, and then you go for a bit, and then again you turn left at some other, let's say, a shoe store that is there, and then you hit a specific street, and that name of the street you give here, whatever is the address of that street, and say from there, if you go all the way, you'll find B after this specific shop out here for donuts. Now, the directions are all dependent on where this is located, traversing through the entire path. So tomorrow, if someone comes and says the shoe shop is gone, you cannot anymore get to be using it. Why? Because the path is broken. So it does not point. So your absolute expert, the way you need to answer a team, it is predominantly defining where my element is there in the page. That is the location of it in comparison to every other element. It is not looking at a specific identification into it. So we do not use it too often for the primary reason that applications change the positions of where these elements and how they're located changes. My absolute XPath varies. But then as an alternate, that is where I use a relative XPath. For me, it's very simple. I'm going to go out here, that is our document object model, and primarily ask as to, you know what, this is the house number, this is the door number, I need the specific pin zip code, and this is the address. Just get me the whole thing. I'll give the entire details, house number, street number, city, zip code. And I know that I can reach it directly based on these details. So your relative XPath, it's not about it starts with 2 forward slashes or single, just the fact that we will use certain properties of those elements to identify. It could be an ID or a name or a class name or a link text or the text on a button or anything that we want to look at on the application. We use one of those identifications that's unique enough and put it. The other advantage is I can continue to add combinations to it. I can say combine conditions and say it has to match this and that or this or that. And I can have a lot of more programmability into it. It gives us flexibility. So even if my application changes tomorrow, I have a decent way to still manage it. The only time I have to go and update my relative XPath is if the developer decides to change those unique identifications using which we did it. And then at that time, we have to update this accordingly. Otherwise, it predominantly is what we use in the industry, relative XPath, to make sure we're able to even get to tougher elements that are not easy to automate sometimes. Give your responses more in terms of your understanding of the concept team. So if we're just saying starts from the root node, so basically the way you have to say it in a relative XPath, we're talking about giving it an example of going to a specific, from the HTML, go inside the body and then go inside the div and then fourth div on the next span. We're giving it direction to it. That is what we want to avoid with relative XPath, where we say that let's look at what we can use to identify. And those are the methodologies that we will look here. Okay.
So Karthik, I have a question. So which is the best practice when coming to element identification? Which one is a good one to use? A name or it should be still a relative XPath for identifying an
See, even if it's a relative XPath, the difference is what are we talking about? More of ID, name, or XPath. So either is fine for me. Even let's say I have an ID, I can always write an XPath using ID also, correct? So you can keep that if you always want to maintain XPath as it. But let us say you want to keep this as an ID. For example, that is what we did even in AnyOrt and other tools. You have a choice. You can give just an ID or a link text, or you can write the entire XPath. It does not matter. It's still pointing to the same thing.
Okay.
Because the key in an XPath for that is what I'll have to write 2 forward slashes. And then I would say something like, in this case, let us say, what's there? An input field maybe, and then square brackets @ ID equals single quote name or first name. This is what the developer gave, and I'm done with it. Okay. So now, do I want to use ID? Sure. Do I want to use name if it's there available? Yeah. Or just use this. Absolutely not a issue with either. But typically, it is easy to stick with an XPath if you want to, and always write XPath. There is a school in automation which believes that CSS is faster in terms of performance than XPath, but I think it's very, very negligible. CSS, I am not a big fan of using CSS for element identification. But there are good videos also how we can go about identifying one. So it is traversing on how to go from A to B for any of these element identification. A is the starting of my HTML page, and then I have to go all the way to where B is. How do I go till that? And those are the two ways. One, use the route map, which says where you have to go, how you have to go. The second is just use the tree attach. Now, can we also talk about frameworks, everyone? And I would want more answers on this. We will do a few more rounds, team. Can you get a little comfortable on this? Various types of automation frameworks. At least I want you to take up one framework, please. And I want you to be the presenter and just draw it on, Paint or Fresh Paint, whatever you want, and show it to us. Okay, this is how it works. Because what we're trying to analyze from your end is how can you visualize that concept, if not in words, as a diagram and be able to present it. So who wants to talk about any of the popular automation frameworks? Pick any, then we will list all of them. We'll talk about each of them. And there is a good video on all about automation frameworks. I think if you search in YouTube also, you may get, not sure. Actually, in IT Learn, you can search. You go to itlearn.com. All about automation frameworks. So who's going for it? I have hand raised, but I don't know who all wanted to maybe share the screen. The way I did unmute you, I was not sure if you were unmuted earlier. What happened? Did it come? Thumbs up. Frameworks. Let's do same. Anyone? At least what's a data-driven framework, team? Sure.
Hi, Karthik. I can tell, but I can't share my screen. Now,
Sure.
Is it okay?
Sure.
Okay. Data-driven framework. We have three types of frameworks. I think so: data-driven and key-driven and hybrid frameworks. And data-driven framework is when we want to use the different sets of data, we'll maintain the data in external files like a Excel file like that, and you can use the data from the Excel file. That is a data-driven framework. And key-driven framework is also extension of a data-driven framework. We can maintain methods also in Excel file. Like any file, CSS file, CSV files like that. Key-driven framework, yeah. And hybrid framework is the combination of the hybrid data-driven and key-driven framework.
Yes. Anyone else? Thank you. Yeah. And we'll keep. I'm just looking at answers right now.
Yeah, we don't hard code in the Java.
For which framework?
Any framework. I mean, you don't. I mean, all the data. We don't hard code in the programs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Who's going next, please?
Hello. Hello, Karthik. Can you hear me?
Yes, Divya.
Yeah, I would like to answer about the element identification in XPath itself. For the dynamic XPaths, for the particular type of web applications, like for example, like Kayak, when we're going to inspect for ID or text, I mean, for the any flights or cars text box, the properties of that elements will be going to be generated when we open the applications for different number of times. So to handle those types of locators, we are going to for three types of methods, just like starts with and contains and ends with method. Starts with method, the start for the start.
Sorry, 1 second. You were talking of something very like, is this dynamic? What was that?
Dynamic XPath.
Okay.
So
Explain
in
to me.
the IDs of the elements will be going to be generated dynamically.
What would be generated? Your voice was breaking up.
Oh, shit. Can you hear me, Karthik, right now?
Yes. Go ahead, Divya. Can't hear you anymore. Hello. Divya, just
Hello?
check. Yes, now you're on.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, for the IDs of the elements, the locators will be going to be generated dynamically. For to handle those types of elements, there are three methods, like starts with and ends with and the contains method. When we comes to the starts with method, the starting data will be static and the ending data will be dynamic in for the starts with method itself. When it comes to the contents method, total the data will be constant, I mean just like static itself.
Do you have access
And
to
when
the
it comes
document? Because most of your words are breaking out for me, Divya. Can you write it here? I'm only able to hear half your words.
Sure.
I think you should be able to edit. Just check once. Loading. Anyone else is not unmuted? Let me know, please. share. To individually give, I think that's the problem. Looks like it's almost the same link. Try that if you can update this document. Your voice was really breaking out for me. You're talking about 3 methodologies to use these. So I just wanted to make sure we get that information. Okay, so I'm going up to where we were. And out here, please, Divya. That is where you're filling in. Okay, so meanwhile, I'm going to go back to frameworks. Anyone else on the frameworks?
So I just have one question. So when the interviewer asks, what do you know about the automation framework, do we need to talk about the each and everything, like what tools we used and what's the setup that we have taken while setting up the framework, or just the definition, for example, like data-driven framework?
Let us assume you ask me, so Karthik, what is an automation framework? If it's that simple, then I'll say, I mean, that's the heart and soul of how we do testing, software testing using automation. Fundamentally, we are always looking at 3 thumb rules: efficiency, reusability, and accuracy. And we have a bunch of frameworks, and each of them have its own benefits in the back. Like there is as simple as a functional decomposition or a linear framework. So it's a flow of test scenarios. Or I could have this test scenarios get tested against various sets of data as data-driven. I could combine my business logic into some reusable function calls, make them as keywords, play around as a with objects, element identification, like it a little more page factory oriented. Combine them for hybrid framework. So your answer won't be a definition ever for anything. It will be your overall knowledge summarized into a 30 seconds good response. And then you can get into, currently I've been working, or recently I've been working on XYZ framework. It could be also things like other tools that behave like a framework. It could be QTP or robot framework. I don't know how much other frameworks have the same capability out of the box. So you have to give a little bit more detailed answers. And if the interviewer seems to be interested in hearing more, then you go into depth. Maybe they will ask questions. So what's the difference between these frameworks? But it's never going to be a one-line answer. In a typical flow of our interview sessions, we want to have maybe about 10 questions, where for each question, I'm taking a good solid 5-10 minutes to answer. If my answer is basically no, I don't know, or just a textbook answer, it will be over in 10 seconds. Then we'll go on to the next question. Or the interviewer has to keep on asking questions just to extract the details from you. They don't need to dig deep into it. We have to give them. But again, they may interrupt. That's okay to be interrupted, saying, okay, let's not get into the details of it. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Thank you.
You're welcome. So it's always like a conversation. It will talk about when you're speaking like that, right? Or it says what you know in the primary terms. And think of it like you're explaining it to someone who's very new into it. How would we provide a very clear answer? Okay, so I think we need a lot more explanation. This is a solid video that goes in depth about automation frameworks. You should definitely try and watch this. Again, the interview does not need to ask those questions. How do they work? What are the benefits and drawbacks? If I can also, I'll just say, can you tell me something about automation framework? And then you can go for about 10 minutes speaking about it. Team, how quickly can anyone write a code and show for any task? Anyone wants to do it? We have 10 more minutes. I just want to ask some coding questions anyone wants to put in. I mean, there are more coding challenges that will take time to get there. I want to at least list down some. So keep asking you these. These days, Java interview questions we will go through, team. There's no question about it. This will be a couple of days total focused on these areas itself. But coding challenges we have to do. This will become the new good norm for that.
Keyword-driven framework. Actually, there are a set of keywords that are usually used, and these keywords actually represent a set of action, or they can symbolize a function or a test case. So that is the main, the heart of the keyword-driven testing is a set of keywords are used actually. I just want to add that. And
you wanted to add that as an answer? Yes.
Yeah, for the keyword-driven testing.
Yeah. I don't think it's an extension of data-driven framework, team, so I would delete that. So that is not correct. It maintains methods. Okay, that is correct. What was the other one now you said?
The keyword testing. It all runs with the help of some certain keywords. Certain keywords are used to represent a particular action. It could be a function. I mean, it's usually a representation of a test case. Those keys. And it can be probably, I think, anybody without a programming knowledge run a framework, a business analyst or anyone without any programming knowledge. It's usually built for them. I mean, anybody must be able to handle such kind of a framework who doesn't have any programming knowledge. That is the advantage of this keyword-driven frame testing, basically. Like anybody in an organization must be able to run the automation test.
And team. So team, keyword-driven framework, we have to explain it a little bit more constructively. It's predominantly coming out correct. Most of these points are right. Absolutely, there's no question about it. But how do we structure it? It may not be an entire test case, team. Just look at the simple logic I'll tell you. Let us say I want to transfer amount. That is one scenario that I have. Then I also have check balance. And then I have add a receiver. I will put here and so on. So now look, to transfer, why am I using this here? I can use a regular pen. So to transfer amount, I need to log in That's first step. Then I need to check balance. Okay. Then I need to add the receiver. Okay. And then make transfer and then log out. Okay. So this is how I'm breaking it down as functional components. Okay. These are the steps. Now each of this could have lot of small steps that are doing it. That is very technical for a developer and so on. From a simple user's perspective, this is how it is. So it's 5 steps. Now someone coming to do this will reuse this because the same login, and they will use the same check balance and they will log out. So then becomes a reusable library. Okay. This reusable library will have all these functions from login to log out, and between them you'll have all the heart of your functionality of the application. It can be functionality based and so on. Once you put that there, you can create new tests easily by calling any of these. So you use those reusable components. You create a library of reusable functional business components, and they can be called. Okay, so there's a data, there's functionality or business components of it, and there's the how we identify and interact with the application. Primarily element identification and what you can do on those methods. That's the form PS. Any other questions, team?
Page object model is a design pattern, right, Karthik? Is it a framework?
It is correct. So primarily, the concept is very simple, but I'm not a fan at all, team. Just letting you know, of page object model. I don't like it. The way it is done, it's absolutely crappy. But it is a model. I'll tell you what it does, how it works. See, let us say there's an application. An application has a home page, then they have a login page, a sign up page, they have a login page, and then there's a dashboard page. There are 4 different pages: home, sign up, login, and dashboard. A simple example for this, let's say we go to eneo.com. This is the home page of the application. So someone wants to sign up, they click on join us. It's taking us to the sign up page. It's a different page. And then if I want to log in, I click on login. And it takes me to the login page. Once I've logged into it, I'm able to go to a dashboard and see what all is there behind it. So that's a simple process of an application. Now, from a page object model page factory, the whole idea or intent is to so there are 2 things here, team. There are elements here, basically elements everywhere. Okay, whatever are there, all the elements are there, right? So there are elements in each page. So I'm going to create a repository of how I can identify these elements and what is it that I should do on them. Okay, like actions on it or methods that we will perform. So for example, if I talk of a sign up page that we were seeing here, the sign up page has, okay, I logged in, log out. Has, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 15, 20 fields that they have to fill in. So all those 15, 20 fields will be listed here. And what is it that the user will do here? Is the user going to, right click on it or click on it? The user will only type on it. So what do they want to type? They will put that detail there. That detail, whatever they're putting on it, is the, how do I say this, team? I'm sorry. I lost my thoughts for a second. So that detail, whatever we're putting on it, becomes my action. And for each of these 15, I'll say, oh, you know what, with this, I can type something on one element. I can do something on the other element. So we predominantly, in our Java or Python or whatever, we are creating a bunch of these reusable components, okay? And we're putting them in a library. And we're saying, okay, here is home page elements and what you can do. Here is the pages, things from sign up, login, dashboard. Now, once these are there, I have my test scripts that I want to write. When I'm writing my test scripts or test cases, however you want to call them, you basically will say like this, go to home. Okay, that's one command. And this is a semicolon team, not a J. Then sign up, I'll say, is another command. And here, maybe we pass some details into it. Okay. Then I'll say login user. And then again, we pass some details into it. And dashboard, what is it that I see? That's got another set of details going into. Okay. So all this becomes one flow. That is one test. So a combination of whatever I want to do, I keep it here. So, and the reason I'm not a big fan of it is very simple. The whole focus has been that, hey guys, write everything as a .java or .python. So if I have, let us say 500 test cases for an application mid-size, I need to write these in Java or Python. It's okay. Everything I have to do it there. How I'm identifying the elements, how I'm doing the method, which is just an absolute replication of OSD. I would prefer more of Excel, or I'm okay with even a web cloud-based. The cloud-based, when you have this, you can do everything that you want to do on a cloud. Like I can write my test plans, I can create my test setup, add modules to it, write detailed testers, what it has to do, everything. That makes it easier. Why should a manual tester still go and open up .java, .python and make changes to that? That for me is a big drawback. I think it's just where we are driving this test. So that video that I sent to you, team, I don't know if I put it in. So watch this, team, because this gives you a good direction overall on the basics of automation framework. I don't think when I created POM and PF for that framework around that time. So that's that. I have nothing else, team, for this today. So if you just check out for your memberships, please. If you're not a member on JPACT, this may suspend it from tomorrow onwards. You can write to us if there's anything about it. All right, thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye for now. We'll get this video uploaded onto YouTube. From tomorrow, I'll put it into our portal so you can log in there and watch. Please, team, come prepared a little bit more on frameworks. I would like more people to participate in giving the answer. We will go more deeper into them. And let's prepare. Let's try and understand how we give answers on each of them. Okay? Whatever we're learning, let's put them into a good place now. Any questions, anyone? Most of you are unmuted. All right, I'll see you all back tomorrow then. Take care. Thank you so much for participating. Bye, everyone.